Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural South African Press, Pause, Go, Play event. It is so wonderful to be. Alexis is off to go and watch the A team in the 80s. And if you kind of felt like, oh, I so want to go and do that, don't worry. We have our very own A team here for you tonight. And they are going to teach us all about the smartphone-free childhood, what it is, why we need it, and how we are going to achieve it. But before I bring them on, let me just introduce myself. My name is Angie James. I am a mom of 3 and a massive fan of the smartphone-free movement. I have 3 kids, an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And we're actually in a really sweet season. We haven't hit puberty yet, but no one is wearing nappies, and we're finally sleeping through the night. I'm sorry to all of you that aren't. Who saw the baby in the room and went, oh, shame? The best is my kids actually genuinely want to spend time with me. Unless my phone is in the room, then they want to spend time with my phone. And so here I am to learn how to keep the mommy time going and not the phone time. So I am very excited about this movement. Smartphone-free childhood exists to unite parents in creating a low-tech and slow-tech childhood where smartphones and the internet are thoughtfully delayed and parents can get together and take collective action in making changes in their communities and their children's childhoods. This all of us, we're the start of the Smartphone-Free Childhood South African chapter, a decentralized platform that offers support and empowerment. And tonight we're going to learn what this is all about. So I'm going to bring the experts up onto the stage. I'm very delighted to bring them to you. They are fabulous, and you might be wanting to take notes. I also want to say, before I bring them up, a big welcome to our online audience. We have 300 people streaming in and counting. So I do hope that you enjoy the time as well. Right, first up, where is Emma? There she is. Emma, if you can join me. Emma Sadleir is South Africa's leading expert on social media law. She started the digital law company in 2013 and spends her days helping people in really tricky situations, but also educating corporates, schools, parents, organizations, children, teachers on the reputational, disciplinary, and legal risks of social media. She is a mom of 2 littles and 3 bigs. And so she really has an incredible overview of what's at play here and what is at stake. So thank you for being with us, Emma, and welcome.
Thank you.
Then we have the amazing Kate Farina. Kate started the foundation Be in Touch. It aims to help parents provide their kids with a safer and saner digital experience. Kate is a mom of teenagers, which also just gets her an extra woo, still here and thriving. And Kate really has been trying and testing out what people need, what tools we need to put in place. As an expert on online safety, she helps families stay connected to each other and stay safe on devices. So thank you and welcome, Kate. And then last but not least, we have Courtney Atkinson joining us on the panel. Courtney is a working mom, and she has been one of the founders of the smartphone-free childhood movement in South Africa. She is our...
It's amazing. Yes.
You can't say something already. But I haven't finished introducing you. Okay.
It's like high school all over again. Guys, Smartphone Free Childhood is entirely volunteer run and led. Everything that you see here is done by a team of dedicated, hardworking parents. And I'm going to call for another volunteer to help us with PowerPoint, please. And perhaps someone from Bluegrass Digital might lend us a hand. Our slides are on auto progress, and we would like to take back control. So if someone doesn't mind just giving Jocelyn a hand, we'd be very grateful.
Okay, that was a really valid and important interruption. Thank you, Courtney.
Now,
So Courtney is that. There you go. She is making it all happen, but not on her own. There is an incredible team that she is part of, but she is here with us on the stage tonight as the smartphone-free childhood expert and also just the every mom. She's a sax mom, like many of you are tonight, and she's here to help us just understand what we are all feeling. So that's us. Let's get to it.
ooh,
We're going to go slideless until they
don't
catch
think
up with
that.
us. Right. Ladies, I want to start off with where we are now. What has brought us to the place, what our current life experience is with our kids, smartphones, the internet, devices, etc. Emma, you spend your days helping children and parents in horrible situations, and they're all because of their smartphones. Can you tell us some stories, please, of what you are seeing happening in South Africa?
well, I can. Hello, everybody. It's lovely to be here. We can't actually see you. You're in the dark and we're in the light. I don't know if we can turn up some of the house lights a little bit so we can see some faces. And it's so nice to see some familiar faces. So, and yes, I'm often what I call myself the first responder, right? When things go wrong in the digital world, then parents phone me, the kids DM me on my Instagram account, not on Facebook. They're not on Facebook. Facebook is for old people. Yeah, that was way better if we can keep those going. Yeah, that's cool. Thank you. And schools are phoning me. And, I think that what we're seeing is a whole range of issues. They do have in common that the internet is usually the reason. I think that without question, the biggest issue that I'm dealing with at the moment is sextortion. It's a case that has been, well, it's an issue that's become, it's just getting bigger and bigger. My phone rings between 10 and 15 times every single day.
Sorry, did you say extortion?
I said sextortion, which is a silly made-up portmanteau of people who are extorted, blackmailed, with the threat that some kind of private content about them will be released. So that's not a new issue. It's been around for a long time, but it's become a bigger issue. What we see is a child being targeted. They find them somewhere in a gaming chat room, on Discord, anywhere online. Often they'll purport to be somebody that they know or that they're one step removed from. Oh, you play cricket with my brother, that kind of thing. And so it's sort of classic catfishing, and they will solicit some kind of private content out of them and then start extorting them. If you don't send me money, this content's going to go everywhere. And I've had kids as young as 9 phoning me to say they've been sextorted. And it's such an awful position to be in. And I think that the reason that it's as extreme as it is because the kids feel so silly that they'd sent these pictures, right? We've been telling them, don't send pictures to people you meet on the internet, don't send pictures, full stop. And they slipped up because these people are hell of a convincing. This isn't somebody in a back room here in the suburbs. This is high-level international organized criminal syndicates. And they are relentless. I had one recently with a girl in Cape Town, 14-year-old girl. Do you know that overnight they created over 1,000 WhatsApp accounts to bombard her, basically saying, unless you send this content, we are going to release this. And they start, so the ring we were dealing with about a year ago, they didn't actually, if you blocked them, they went away. But now what they'll do is they'll find people you're connected to, you go to your Instagram account, whatever, and send it to your mom, send it to your best friend, send it to a few people to make them really aware that they're serious. The other big thing that I'm seeing is AI technologies using deep fakes to extort people. So in the past, I actually had to have a nude of you to extort you. But now I just need a picture of you and I turn you into a nude using Nudify or the Undress app. All these things are in the hands of even the primary school kids. And actually, the deepfake porn pictures that I'm seeing are coming out in grade 6 and 7 more than anything. I think as the kids get a bit older, they get a bit wiser, they realize that it's not a funny game. I can tell you that the worst content that I see at the moment, and the group that is in my inbox most frequently, is the age range 10 to 14. The age of civil capacity in South Africa, that means the age at which you can sue and be sued. Does anyone know what it is? Other than SAS? 7. From 7 years old, you can sue and be sued in South Africa. Does anyone know how old you've got to be arrested in South Africa? 12. It used to be 10. Good listening. It used to be 10, but it's been increased to 12. It basically means that if your child is 11 or under and they commit a criminal offense, they can't be convicted of a criminal offense. There may be deviation programs, etc., but from 14 years old, full criminal capacity, does not matter whether a murder was committed by a 14-year-old or a 40-year-old. They are they're prosecuted in the same way. If the child is 12 or 13, there's an assessment of the child. How old is the child? How educated is the child? Should that child know the difference between right and wrong? And my view is that if a child's old enough to have a phone at 12 years old, they're old enough to commit a crime. And there are a whole range of criminal offenses that are being committed by these kids.
I'm still on Nudify.
Okay, well, you're on Nudify. I want to take you through this, which has been blaring, and now I want to talk about it because it keeps distracting you all. Okay, so this is a case that landed up in my inbox. It's a girl in grade 5. So we're dealing with a 10-year-old who is talking to a boy in grade 7. And there are a few things I want to talk about. So the conversation just starts, send nudes. It's an old case I've been talking about for a long time, but it's still a very important one. Just out of the blue, it's not, hi, I know it's really naughty and I really like you. It's like asking about the weather, right? It's just so, there you go. Send nudes, heart, heart. Sends a nude palette. Cute, funny, he says. I mean the real ones. No. Laughing emoji, heart, heart. Being serious, please send. No. Why not? Because no, send beep pics. She sends a picture of a cat. Now, the fact we're putting a 10-year-old in this position, and the fact that the 12-year-old is the one asking, is horrifying. I'm afraid it's not horrifying to me anymore because this is what I deal with day in and day out. There are a huge range of criminal offenses here. Solicitation of child pornography, there's harassment, there's all sorts of things. But probably the most startling thing for me here, Ange, is if you look at the timestamp on that first message, it's 8:58 p.m. Firstly, what's this grade 5 kid doing on her phone on a school night at 8:58 p.m. on her own? Never mind what she's doing on WhatsApp. You know, WhatsApp's official age restriction is 13. It used to be 16. I've never seen it enforced.
No, because it's just, I mean, you can just, I mean, WhatsApp, don't get me started on WhatsApp. Anybody who knows me knows it is my least favorite thing in the world, although it is handy for my kids to be able to chat to their granny and grandpa, right? I mean, it's not that dangerous, WhatsApp.
No, it's very dangerous. Okay, so this is, I'm so glad you asked me this question. I'm sorry, guys. I'm doing all the talking. We did an event last night. I didn't do that much talking. I'm taking, it's a revenge night. Okay, so, no, I'm going to hand over to my much cleverer panelists in a moment. But there are two things I want to say. Three things. Be careful of WhatsApp, be careful of Discord, and be careful of YouTube Kids. Because what I'm seeing is that primary school kids, parents are like, oh, I've been reading some articles about how social media is not appropriate for children, so you can't be on Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat, but you're allowing them to be on WhatsApp. Now, what I'm seeing in the primary schools, and I speak at primary schools, well, schools every day, primary schools often, and the kids are telling me that they're on these WhatsApp groups and they're add everyone groups. So it can be like add everyone and send the most offensive memes, add everyone and whatever it is. But you get a situation where you've got 1,024-year-olds, 9 and 10-year-olds sending the most shocking content they can because that's what appeals to their little brains. And it is, for me, a form of social media in itself. The feedback loop, the reactions, the conversations that are happening there. They're building their huge communities on WhatsApp. So I'm not saying WhatsApp. I run my whole life on WhatsApp. I couldn't live without WhatsApp. I genuinely, like, my WhatsApp account was reported recently, and I was locked out of it for 24 hours, and it was so much fun because there was like there's nothing going on my phone. But it was also terrifying because when I say I run my life on WhatsApp, I do. So be careful of WhatsApp. Discord. I'm seeing a lot of parents letting little children onto Discord, which is a haven for sexual predators. And the reason that they're letting them
Can you
onto
tell us
Discord,
where you find Discord?
it's a website So it's a website and it allows people to communicate. So you have these servers and you can chat your things. And why the kids will tell you they need to be on it is that it is very popular with the gaming community. So your kids playing Roblox or Minecraft and they need to be able to talk to their mates about the game that they're playing or Fortnite or whatever they're playing, Clash of Clans or Call of Duty. So they'll tell you they need to be on Discord. And as you like this, what is it, right? So this is maybe my biggest piece of advice is before you let your child on any platform, you need to learn how it works. Now, I'm not saying you have to go and spend 3 months of your life playing Fortnite, but you do have to spend 7 minutes of your life Googling it. And there are so many unbelievable resources online that will give you a step-by-step instruction, an A4 document. These are the issues. These are what you need to be concerned about. This is what we think the age restriction should be. We've asked children what they think the age restriction should be, and educate yourself about it. You've got to know there's no possible way you can keep your children safe on these apps, on these games, on these websites, unless you know how it works. And then the third, and I promise I'll stop speaking now, is YouTube Kids. Because it's got kids in the title. I'm seeing little kids being passed a phone, say, watch YouTube Kids while I finish my glass of wine, which sometimes is necessary, right? But please give them Netflix or Disney or Amazon or something that's pre-moderated, because the problem with a platform like YouTube Kids is that it's algorithmic, but so the addiction issues are big. But the content on there, I've seen Peppa Pig self-harm videos, I've seen anal rape, Shrek anal rape porn, I've seen, and YouTube Kids, right? So because you might have approved the video they're watching, but they click that thumbnail a couple of times and they're a voyage into the underbelly of the internet. So please, if you have to use screen time, and I get it, I've got little children, put them on something pre-moderated.
I feel like we just need to breathe for a moment.
Sorry.
Because you said Shrek, anal, rape, porn.
And this is being live streamed. Let's not forget that.
Put your kids to bed, folks.
You said, I checked, it said no under 18s on the invitation. Your children are watching, it's your fault.
Oh, okay. Emma, this stuff is really, really scary. And what I am wondering, and I'm wanting to hear from you, Kate, is, so those are all of the, I mean, those risks are absolutely mind-blowing, like what is possible, what the kids can be exposed to. How is this affecting them? Like, you're an expert on like the most up-to-date research. What are we seeing in the research?
Okay. So I just want to go back when those of us who were lucky to be the first iPhone owners back in around about 2007 or maybe a bit later for South Africans, it was a really handy tool, right? It had a camera, GPS, a flashlight. But then, and you could make calls. Actually, that was the primary function, right? And then we had this massive acceleration. These devices became smarter. And suddenly they became actually a mini marketplace. They are a marketplace for millions, I don't even know what the current count is, millions of apps which you can download. And all of these apps are designed to compete for attention, right? Because if they're free, then the more attention they can grab from you, the more they can market to you. It's all about the advertising and the profit margin. So what's happened to our kids is that they have become the product. That is what is being marketed. The younger the user, the bigger profit. And we have had this massive acceleration over the years. And what we're seeing now, I'm going to show you a couple of the stats that we have been gleaning from our grade 4 to grade 11s in South Africa, is that our children are getting onto smart devices. I'm talking about smartphones and tablets here, ever younger. Until we're sitting at the moment to the majority, 62%, age 10, having access to what they would consider their own phone. Hot tip, loan and don't own. Just make sure you always own that until they can afford the iPhone 57 or whatever it is by the time they're 18. Good luck to them. They're getting on social media, 83% of them by age 12. And it's quite important here just to reflect that there's a big gap in regulation of app developers and particularly of our social media apps, which we're going to talk about a lot tonight. This is not the film and TV industry, guys. So we don't have bodies that are sitting thinking, should Snapchat really be allowed for 13-year-olds or actually should it be for 18-year-olds? So these guys are self-regulating they are putting the youngest age they can on the app stores, which is essentially the youngest age they can get away with from the US data privacy regulation restrictions. So when your child says, but mum, TikTok is 13.
Wait, sorry.
Yes.
What's regulating them is data privacy,
Only
not
data privacy law at the
age
moment.
appropriateness.
Because the US has data privacy legislation around mining the teens. So that is the only control currently. So these are not age appropriate ages that you're going to see on the app stores. Just know that when you need to stand firm firstly.
Can I quickly butt in there? Because I just want to say, as I was about to come up, I opened X, which I don't recommend you doing today, at the same time as getting a breaking news alert that the head of Hamas has been killed by the IDF. And I opened X, and the first 5 tweets I saw were the most graphic pictures of his body that will, I can tell you, haunt my nightmares tonight. And I'm a pretty robust, very nearly 40-year-old. So the idea that that age restriction is 13, never mind all the pornography on there, was just horrifying.
Completely, yeah. And so, of course, you know, there's no regulation regarding the controls they need to put in place that would protect our kids from the harms of the exposures if they did open X, which a lot of them do, by the way, right, Emma? One of the biggest platforms for most graphic online pornography. They are also sleeping in their rooms at night with their phones and tablets, and the majority don't have parental controls because, let's face it, parental controls are hard, and the apps and our kids are even smarter than us. So I get that. It is hard, but they are also tell us that it's late at night, guys, late at night. They're talking, this is what they tell us, not early evening, late at night, when most of the cyberbullying and the inappropriate stranger contact is happening. So it's a perfect storm. You've got unsupervised kids on uncontrolled devices, and you've got tired brains making bad choices. So literally one of the biggest things you can do walking out of the session today, if your kids have got phones or if you're going to give them phones in the future, is get those devices out of rooms at night. Get a family charging station. That is one of literally the biggest thing you can do for your whole family.
Do you know, Kate, my son's friend has a phone. His mom is a single mom. He's an only child. It really is helpful to them. My son is 11. His friend is 11. And this boy has my phone number in case he needs to contact Caleb. And about a week ago, I got a WhatsApp from this little boy at 15 minutes past 1 in the morning.
On a school night.
On a school night. Yeah. He sent me a reel. I didn't open it.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is very real.
It's real.
Real is real.
A real.
Okay. And we've got around about half of them are saying by 8, 12, they've had inappropriate stranger contact. So we don't try to seed the ideas in them, but we give them enough to report back on the inappropriate stranger contact. And most of it, guys, is happening on social media platforms. So if you've got any need after this to think about delaying social media for as long as possible, just remember some of these stats. Pornography statistics rising. It's roundabout now by the age 9 or 10, when the majority of our kids are first exposed inadvertently, or they might be sent something, or they're browsing around on the family computer or granny's phone while she's babysitting them for the weekend. And they accidentally slip into a rabbit hole due to very bad spelling, because of course our kids are also not reading as much as they should be anymore. They're on their screens. And so it's mostly first seen at home. So just an FYI, this weekend, go check your family computers and just see what controls, filters you need to put on there. And of course, Emma's big area of expertise, the sexting, rising. It's a normalized part of the teen culture now. Very difficult. Damned if you do and damned if you don't, particularly as a girl. And really, I mean, the statistics just speak for themselves in terms of how young these girls and boys have to make decisions around this.
That is really, really frightening. Courtney, how does this make you feel? Our parent on the panel. There's a microphone there.
I think it was working. Try again.
You switch it on.
Or this guy.
I can use this guy.
Check that guy out.
I'm having such tech failure.
I just turned it on. Why don't you just check?
Oh. Does it work now? No,
Okay.
still not working.
Okay.
Okay.
I think big tech is onto us. And I felt so many things. And I first heard these horror stories in this hall in April. And one of the things that really stuck with me from that talk is that no matter how careful I am with my child, he will not be safe, or they will not be safe rather, if the children around them are participating in this. I learned about Snapchat, which I don't know much about, but the location-based business of Snapchat.
Snap maps.
Snap maps.
Mhm.
So if my son gets snapped somewhere and someone thinks he's very, very cute, he is very cute. They might go and they might take an interest in him. And I was really shocked. The information was shocking. I've spent some time getting familiar with it, and it's even more shocking. The beheading videos, the extremely gruesome content that's coming out of the current war zones. This stuff is being sent to children unsolicited. They're not going out looking for it. They're being targeted. So no matter how angelic your child is, it's not a question of their character. They're being targeted for this stuff. In this talk, there was a Q&A with parents, and what ensued was my eldest child is in grade 1. So I was being a keen bean coming to our first parent talk, and there were, of course, more seasoned parents at this talk, and they said things like, "We thought we would be the ones to stem the tide and hold this back. We thought we'd be the year that would be able to hold back. We thought we could do it." I heard absolute desperation, despair, conflict in households, and it really broke my heart, because we were also sitting in a room and everyone was feeling quite the similar things and not actually talking about it together, which is really what we're doing here. Because if we're all feeling this, why are we doing it? We're all doing it because everybody else is doing it, but maybe it's time to stop.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is good, because tonight I'm feeling hopeful, but definitely around those April talks, I was feeling totally dejected, and that this was impossible and really stressed. And Kate was telling me earlier about more, she's my stat girl. She's the one I go to, people. And she was telling me about some stuff that's come out of the US that's talking to how parents are feeling. Please, won't you share with us, Kate?
Yeah, so I think the anxiety and stress us are living with is, and what Court's to tell us about, and my mic is going on and off, so let me try and just fix that. Oh yeah, I like the big one. I think I'll manage here. Thanks, Court. We're all just trying to do our very best for our children, the very best we can every single day. And at the same time, let's face it, we are all distracted ourselves by our phones. So it's very much a push me, pull you. But just to say that we are not alone. The US Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, who is a dad himself, and he's a great global advocate. He is pushing a lot of US and international change, putting his team to work. They've been doing a lot of crunching of data. About 18 months ago, they published an advisory which was clearly showing the link between social media and the decreasing mental health of teens in the US. And he has now, in the last couple of weeks, published an advisory which says that the mental health of parents is a crisis. And advisories in the US are very important because they set the direction for policy and for regulation to come. So what he is recognizing is, it's not just the mental health of our kids, it's the mental health of us parents. Modern parenting is hangover hard. And interestingly, what came out of this research that they've done, amongst all the many, many, many stresses and all the things that we have to balance as modern parents, the top 2 most stressful things that parents are worrying about is their kids being on tech and social media. So I think just to know that we're not alone, we are together with 70% of the rest of the US parents, and it's a real thing. We have come to a time where we are going to be saying no more. We can't deal with this anymore.
And there is, something is changing. Emma, you've seen that. You've seen some good stuff. Let's start bringing the good stuff. It's got dark.
Okay, well, I want to tell you about, so firstly, I want to say this. I have been shouting from the rooftops for just over a decade, which is how long I've been giving these talks at schools and universities, etc., that smartphones should be banned in primary schools, that no primary school child should have a phone. And but you know, just the internet has no shallow end. Once they're online, they're online. They're coming across the harmful content. They're meeting these online predators disguised as these absolutely beautiful 12-year-old girls from the next door school. And they're just not yet equipped to deal with that space. And it's not to say they're not brilliant children. These are brilliant children. I'm not saying to anybody, your children isn't bright enough to be on these platforms. It's just that their brain hasn't developed. So the brain develops from the back to the front, and all of that decision making, the impulse control happens in the front. And there's a reason that we don't give the keys to our cars to 9-year-olds. You know, I was speaking at a primary school a couple of weeks ago, and I said to the kids, why don't we let 9-year-olds drive cars? This little boy says to me, because we can't reach, man. I was like, that is so damn cute. And then his friend's like, no, bro, it's because we'll crash. I was like, yeah, you'll crash. Yeah. And it's not because they're not awesome, unbelievably clever, wonderful children. It's just that they're not there yet, right? A car requires you to make very important decisions in the heat of the moment, which can literally have life or death consequences in exactly the same way that a phone does. And it's not to say you're never going to get them a phone and you're never going to let them on social media. It's just not a place for a 9 or 10-year-old, right? So I've been shouting this from the rooftops for literally a decade, and I was starting to get despondent. Late last year, I was just like, is anyone going to start listening to me? And that's not to say I don't have some great things in my work. Like, it is fab when people come to me and they say the kid's being bullied so badly online, and we send a corker of a letter, like a cease and desist letter, and tell the kid all these terrible things, and we want a handwritten apology and undertaking it's going to stop, and then you get the kid their life back. You know, it's fab. We can use the law as an incredibly powerful tool in the arsenal in the fight against these online harms.
But what we're really hoping for is that you won't have a job in the future.
Well, I don't want jobs with primary school kids, right? I don't want jobs with children, full stop. I never charge children, and I refuse to. Anyway, so this is what I wanted to say. So I was driving along to a talk at St. John's in Joburg late last year. It was in November last year. And I was speaking to the grade 6 and 7 kids, which is very usual. Like, often schools will insist that I speak grade 5, sometimes even grade 4. And I was expecting for the response to be the usual response, which is in the grade 4 to grade 7, when I say who's got a phone, 95% of them put up their hand. They're on WhatsApp. They're on huge WhatsApp groups. They're on WhatsApp groups with people they don't know. They're updating their WhatsApp status. They're on Instagram, Discord, TikTok, and Snapchat. And games, obviously. That's what I was expecting. So I start with my first question, which is how I start all of the talks, who's got a phone? And you know, of the few hundred boys in the room, 2 of them put up their hand. And they were the ones that were laughed at. They were like, oh, Brew, well, you got a phone. You know, and it was so cool. And I had to take a moment, and I got goosebumps, and I was just like, it is possible. But the fabulous thing was that I had to change the whole content of my talk, because I didn't have to talk about porn and sexting and stranger danger and online predators and sextortion and all of the stuff that I have to talk to grade 4s about, because they're on these devices. And once they're on, right? And I was just like, okay, cool. Like,
what did you talk about?
You know, we talked about cricket.
Ah,
Yeah. I like cricket.
I'm sure they do too. I love that story. That story gives me hope. And it really is an indicator that things are changing. Kate, tell us about this change and how it started and what it looks like.
Shift. We're going through a massive global shift. The last 6 months have been filled with so much change, and it's partly thanks to Dr. Jonathan Haidt, but he stands on the shoulders of many other giants, Jean Twenge and Brad Huddleston and many others who've been doing lots of research and sounding the alarm for us in the last few years. But I think just the last 6 months has really become a lot clearer that inappropriate and too much screen time is linked to the decreasing mental health of our children. And it's a tipping point like we've had in the past, right? So I don't know how many of you grew up without sun cream when you were younger. I did. I lived in Sim. Wasn't such a thing anyway. But see the results of it today. But now suddenly all of us slap sun cream on our children these days, right? Because we know now what the sun does to us. We buy very expensive car booster seats, which have absolutely no resale value because our cars got faster and we had to protect the children if there was an impact. And of course, we realized that that fantastic lifestyle that the tobacco companies were selling us was actually a lie. And so these all shifted our behaviors. We got the research, we got the understanding, we got the knowledge. And so what Jonathan has been so good at in packaging in his book has been what this impact has been. And particularly it's been around a shift from what he says has been a play-based childhood to a device-based childhood. And I think it's time we have Jonathan come in and he can chat to us a little bit more about this.
And one of the things you described, that there was a perfect storm of events that landed us here. And you say that people may be surprised to know that this started in the 80s. You say that parents were overprotective in some ways and underprotective when it came to the viral world. Explain that.
Sure. So human childhood has always been about play. That's true for all mammals. Anyone who's had a puppy or a kitten at home, you know, they want to play all the time. They have to play because that's how mammals wire up their brains. It's part of our program. And from, 300 million BC or whenever mammals start until the 1980s or 1990s, that's what kids did. And, we grew up in a time when there was a crime wave, there was dangers out there, but everyone went out and played by the time you were 7 or 8. But in the 80s and 90s.
Who played out there when you were 7 or 8? Yeah, we all
That was just the norm. Everybody did.
Yeah.
And it's a lot safer now, but we're so scared now. We're so scared that if we ever let our child out.
And that period was when, like in the 90s, I remember when kids were on milk cartons.
Exactly. That was the 80s, yes.
Yes.
And then it goes into, that's right, into the 90s.
Into the 90s, where parents were afraid to let their kids do anything. You couldn't let your kids stay in the front yard. You couldn't let your kids play with other,
Yeah. So I'm calling this the backstory here. It's the loss of the play-based childhood. And if you take away play from children, you're going to have problems. They need a lot of independent, unsupervised play so that they can learn how to be self-supervising. That's our goal, is to work ourselves out of a job as parents, that they can be self-supervised.
So let's make this point again to parents, because play isn't just play. Play is learning how to be socialized with other people. It's learning how to...
It's nature's social emotional learning. It is the most effective way to learn how to cooperate, how to manage your emotions, how to make plans, how to adjudicate rules. It's everything.
How to hear no and react to no.
That's right. And you want the game to keep going, so you stay in.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. And so that happened with parents overprotecting.
That's right.
And then along comes the smartphones.
That's right.
Where parents were underprotecting.
That's right. So as kids are kind of retreating from the real world and they're spending a lot more time online, the millennials were spending a lot more time on AOL or Messenger, whatever it was in the 90s and the early 2000s, but their mental health didn't get worse. The first wave of the internet didn't mess us up. It was incredibly exciting. And actually, I want all the parents here to remember how you felt when you first encountered the internet, if you remember the 90s. I mean, it was magical. It was like a godlike power. And so as our kids began spending more and more time there, we thought, well, maybe this will be good for them. Like, technology, like this is the way of the future. So we let our kids change childhood. We were complicit in it, but we didn't know any better. We thought this was going to be good. And then everything changes. You get the smartphone in 2007, but it's not so bad at first. It's only then you get the App Store, then you get push notifications, then you get 100 apps on your phone. And every time your child downloads an app, they're giving permission to a company to interrupt them. And they're giving permission to strange people all over the world to contact your child in many of the apps. And so this is when things get really dark. 2010 to 2015, everything changes.
So this event is called Press, Pause, Go. Play. Yeah. So thank you, Emma, and some of you. Yeah, so I love hearing what he's saying there. And this is what we need our children to do. We need them to play. And people have realized, and along with his book coming out, which Kate waved that beautiful book around, it's called The Anxious Generation. It's not available in South Africa. Unless you're here tonight because we have some. Hey, Courts?
The book lounge flew them in especially for these events.
Mm.
And the reason we don't have them in South Africa is because they've been on this book has been on the bestseller list for the New York Times since its launch in May. So they are diverting all the stock, guys. So grab one.
It's superb. I do just want to say, if you can't get hold of a hard copy because they run out tonight, the Audible is also excellent. So for anybody on Audible, that's how I listen to it driving around.
A friend of mine bought one last night and she said she stayed up late in the night reading it. It's like, don't let it interrupt your sleep. Didn't you learn last night? So Courtney, one of the things that has also happened that is part of this tipping point is the establishment of the smartphone-free childhood movement in the UK. Can you tell us all about that, please?
Absolutely. So in February, very similar to what happened here, a couple of mums chatting over the kitchen table. Their girls were approaching, I think it was 8 or 9, and it started to trickle down what was coming. And they felt very uncomfortable about it, and they sat with the discomfort and decided to do something about it. So what they did is they started a WhatsApp group. I just want to say, guys, the irony of this is not lost on us. We have thousands of people in WhatsApp groups, and this is how we are doing SFC, and it is working. So they started a WhatsApp group. They both posted to their Instagrams saying, we want to do things a little bit differently for our children, and we'd love to connect with like-minded parents. If you feel the same, please join us. And that group maxed out within a day. 1,024 parents. They didn't even know them. And so they set up another group, maxed out, another group, maxed out. They set up an enormous WhatsApp structure, which I can tell you takes a lot of time to administer. And it just snowballed. And parents were coming together and asking questions. So how they structured it was they were coming together in their school groups. So hyper local. They were able to talk about the issues that they were experiencing in their community. Gosh, the boys are really gaming a lot. I'm a bit concerned about this. What do you guys think about that grade 2 iPad policy, etc.? So it allowed people to talk about the problems that they were experiencing and to troubleshoot how to address them. It snowballed. They now have over 100,000 parents in 60 countries. And the most amazing thing is that it's working. These are parents who are having collaborative and constructive conversations with their schools, and the schools are changing their policies. The schools are reading the books. They are hearing their parents, and it's just incredible to see the change happening. I think at one point we had a different country, another school, a different state, all of these things just happening. It felt like every day there was something coming up.
And now South Africa. Okay, but now we've been quite hopeful for a little while, so I'm going to take us back into a dark space because I would like Kate to tell us a little bit more about Jonathan's research. So he speaks about...
That's how we call him Jonathan, like he's our best mate.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jono.
like we know him, right? Hey, Jono.
Mr. Heights research.
Doctor,
Yes,
to you.
I feel like I know him so well. So he speaks about the 4 harms and the 4 norms. Can you take us through those, Kate? Well, let's start with the harms. Do the bad news first.
Am I the Minister of Darkness?
I know, I'm so sorry.
Right, so let's do the 4 harms and we'll get on to the more hopeful stuff. So he's saying across the board for girls and boys, there have been, particular harms, both genders, but across the board, social deprivation has been a significant key thing of this past generation, because although they are connected, they're not really connected, right? They're on screens, but the interpersonal skills are not building all those good life skills from being together and in contact with each other and understanding body language. And as Jonathan and Oprah said so beautifully, learning how to play and to say no, to say yes. So the social deprivation has been one aspect, and then the sleep deprivation, because as you saw from those stats that we showed earlier, when you're in a teenager, you start spending roughly around something between anything from 6 to 9 hours a day on your screen for non-educational purposes. You've got to give up on something. You only got 24 hours. And so often what the easiest thing to give up on is sleep, right? Locked your phone in your bedroom. And it's easy to hide under. So it is, sleep deprivation is a big part of this generation. We've got a generation of teens which are what we call are socially jet lagged. Their brains are actually only waking up around about 10 in the morning. Our teachers are really battling to teach them for the good first couple of hours of the day. And then this third harm is attention fragmentation, because you think about all the apps we've got on our phone, right? They have a lot more than us, but all of these apps are pinging, there's notifications, even if we've got it on silent, it's buzzing. And so it's very hard to maintain tasks because there's all these off-ramps that our phone and these apps want us to take all the time, because remember, they're all competing for our attention. They all want to grab that attention and keep us in that app. And then the last one is addiction. So this is the rise of addictions that are particularly devastating for children, for our generation of kids. And I mean, just to reflect very quickly on more specifically what we're talking about, these harms, is that our girls are showing much higher rates of anxiety, depression, and self-harm, because we are social animals. And so Instagram is finding is a perfect platform for us to visually compare ourselves against each other. But our boys are showing high rates of suicide, pornography, and gaming addictions because of the way their brains are wired, right? Hundreds of years ago, to go out to war, to go and hunt the food. So in-person first shooter games are perfectly tapping into those brains. And of course, pornography, our boys are wired to go out, find a mate, and procreate. So these are what Jonathan's research is showing so clearly, is the devastating results that the last 14 years have had on our kids.
I mean, addiction is a really, really big word. It ruins lives, it ruins families, and now we're seeing it in children. I know one of the worst places is the gaming world. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Emma?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the gaming world, there are three things we're worried about. The first is that the kids are going to spend all your money, right? Don't let them do that. The second, I mean, that's not a very serious risk, actually, if you compare it to the other two. The other two are obviously the stranger danger. I think that social media generally, but gaming even perhaps more so, has been a present wrapped up in a big red shiny bow for any kind of online predator, especially a platform like Discord. The kids are young, they're naive, they take people at face value. If you tell them you're a 12-year-old in Canada playing Minecraft and you want to talk about something going on in the game, they will believe you, right? And I think that it gives them the opportunity to get through that, when sometimes you get a DM from somebody and you're not sure if you know who they are, there's that little feeling in your tummy that like, are they? Or, and then you speak to them all day, every day for a couple of days, and they feel like they're your best mate or your girlfriend, right? So I think that gaming often allows you to get from that point A to point B seamlessly, these baddies. And I'm not saying baddies like the cool kids say baddies, I mean bad people. And the second big issue, obviously, is addiction, right? These kids are just incapable, and it's actually proper recognized addiction now. We use the term flippantly, I'm addicted to my phone, I'm addicted. Social media addiction isn't a recognized addiction in the psychiatric manual. So is social media addiction, gaming addiction, pornography addiction. They're all proper addictions. And there are literally rehabs, even in South Africa, where you can send people for social media addiction, gaming addiction.
Wow, that is really scary. And I think about, who here is tired of the question, Mummy, can I play Roblox? Or can I play Fortnite? Or shell shockers, shell shockers is quite cute. It's just eggs. But it's like, I'm finding with my son that he believes his week has not been fun or a valid week if he hasn't had his chance to game. And I am the worst mom because I'm the one that says, yes, you may for 45 minutes on a Thursday afternoon, and that's it. whereas it is very, very much more in the other homes of his friends.
But I
So
think
much
that's a very
so.
important point you make, you know, shell shock is you're happy with it. Yeah, it's silly. It's eggs, right? You're happy with it. So that's the first thing is do your research, like find out about the game, find out what do you think the risks are. Obviously, there are some games that are way more concerning than other games which are actually quite benign. So we've got that issue, right? First, the second is you agree on time budgets. I would actually let your child open the bidding there because I promise you they will underestimate, and you stick to them as far as possible. You make sure that there are breaks. You make sure that they're getting physical activity as well as the sedentary activity of playing games. You make sure that they're playing in a public area, that they're not playing in their room with the door closed. Decide whether the audio will be on or off. Decide whether they're going to be playing on private servers or if they're going to be playing with strangers. You know, those kinds of intricacies. We're not just saying no gaming ever again. You know, we're just saying like wisen up a little bit because there's some dodgy stuff going on.
And then role model your rules. You know that, yeah, sure, you can have some screen time, but not right.
Can I say something? Can we recognize that it is really hard to be a parent, especially in a hybrid working environment when you are on your laptop, your children might be home, you may be using your phone to do your emails or make payments or run your entire business, run the whole of SFC.
Yeah.
It is really, really tricky. And I think we have to recognize that and be gentle on ourselves. And one thing that I learned was, it was from a dear friend of ours who said she teaches her children that tech is a tool and not a toy. And that has been really helpful in our home.
That is good. Tech is a tool, not a toy. I like that. I want to go to, yes. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go.
While we're doing all the recognizing, we must also recognize that the technology exists is an enormous blessing for so many children who would otherwise be unable to read or write or see. So it's providing accessibility. It also affects neurodivergent children completely differently. In some ways, it can be very helpful to them, and in other ways, it can be extremely harmful to them. So SFC and what we're trying to do here is not an anti-tech movement. We're very much focused on going slow tech. The kids have got all the time in the world for this stuff. Let's let that brain develop a little bit more before they start doing some silly things on a global and permanent platform. And low tech. I worry about the gaming being a slippery slope personally. So I'm going to delay that first step for as long as humanly possible.
So Jonathan, my friend, he speaks about the 4 norms. That's what we're going to aim towards in our effort to go low tech and slow tech. Kate, have you got some info on that for us?
So, I mean, Jonathan is a doctor, right? He's a social psychologist. So he's also a practical kind of guy. He's not just given us a book and, you know, all his research is doom and gloom. There's a lot of that. Not light reading, but I do recommend you give it a bash. But he is saying, okay, so what are we going to do about this? Because if we are at this tipping point, we have to think about what are the new behaviors that we'd like to shift towards. And so he has come up with 4 norms that he reckons we need to really think about as this next generation of parents if we want to stop this downward slide of this impact on the mental health of our kids. And I know, is there anybody who doesn't want to do that here? We all, okay. So we're all here because we really like to do that, right? We want to work ourselves out of a job. We would like happy, healthy teenagers that become fully functional adults and hopefully leave the nest. That's what I want. If you don't want that, this movie is not for you. You're welcome to go to the bar now. So I reckon let's go back to him. Let him talk to the 4 norms himself.
Why are we all doing it? Only because everyone else is. That's it. That's the reason. This stuff is not made for kids. This stuff is toxic for kids. Really, it should be, minors should not be on it. It should be 18. But there's a consensus building that while 18 might be best for mental health, 16 is a kind of a reasonable compromise. In the UK, they're exploring that. The Florida bill just did that. A number of states are doing that. In my book, I recommend 4 norms by which we can escape from this trap. The first is no smartphone before high school. Just use flip phones or phone watches. The second is no social media till 16. It might sound impossible, but because if your child is the only one, right? If you're the only one who doesn't have it, it's incredibly painful. But what if half the kids in your school didn't have it? Well, then it's not so bad. The third one is phone-free schools. We've just got to get them entirely out of the schools. There's no role for them. And then the fourth is far more independence, free play, and responsibility in the real world. If we're going to cut back on screen use a lot, especially in elementary and middle school, we have to give them what we took from them, which is play, which is each other. And so if we have to, now, it used to be you could just send the kids out, come home when the streetlights are on. I understand that's going to be harder today. We have to be more intentional. But if you can find ways to just help your kids hang out together with no screens, they're going to have a great time.
I can see all the teens in this room reacting to that. When you said phone-free schools, you should have seen her face like, are you kidding me? A phone-free school? But I agree that if everybody is doing it, it makes it really, really hard for your child not to be a part of it. So it has to be a community, everybody has to decide as a community. And I think one of the reasons why people haven't decided, because people actually don't know how bad it is. So you are sounding the alarm and you are sounding the alarm. And this generation really is the generation that we're experimenting with, and they're going to pay the price for it because people don't yet understand how bad it is and how damaging it's going to be to the future.
That's right. I would just say 4 years ago, I think that statement would be perfectly correct. And then we had COVID and everyone was confused. And now that COVID is receding, I'm finding actually most of us kind of knew this, like most of us felt like, wait, this is really wrong. Something is really wrong here.
Okay, so I'm going to test myself, but before I do, where it says submit your questions, you can scan that, and online people, you can also scan and you can submit your questions to Slido. We're collating them and we will answer some questions at the end. So our 4 norms: no smartphones before high school, and take note that in the States, high school starts in grade 9. Not in grade 8, because they have middle school. So he's saying no smartphones before grade 9, no social media before age 16, phones out of our schools, and more independence and play for our kids.
Well remembered. And I mean, 16, as he's saying, it's just a stab, right? I don't know if you heard him because we had that delightful teenager making faces in it. But, in his opinion, probably 18 for most of the social media apps. Guys like Brad Huddleston actually advocate for 25, no smartphones and no social media before 25, because that's when our prefrontal cortex is actually fully developed. So this is just a stab, though. 16 is just, our best guesstimate, but it's a hell of a lot better than 13.
So just now, and it wasn't related to this, you said you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And that's kind of how I feel. Like, okay, I don't want my kids to have smartphones. But if I say no, they're going to miss out on everything that's happening in the digital world that is their world, because everybody else has a smartphone. But if I say yes, I'm going to be exposing them to endless harm and risk.
Parent trap.
That is the parent trap.
Parent trap.
Say that again.
The collective parent trap that we're sitting in. It's a lose-lose choice that we have to make. Either we delay and our kids are left out if nobody else delays, or we give in and our kids are exposed to the world of harms that we know the previous generation have been exposed to.
So let's take collective action. Woo. And I think it's time, because now I'm in. I'm sold. I was already in, but now I'm really in. and now I want to know, what can I do? So Courtney, what can I do? Go.
Ange, the answer is collective action. And as the name implies, the collective, a group, commits to taking action, or in this case, not doing something, not giving our kids a phone, together. And the idea is, instead of being on this impossible position as parents, where we either give in and have our children suffer as a result, or we don't, and they are potentially ostracized or left out at an important developmental time in their lives. Instead, if we all choose, actually, no, I lie, sorry. The number is 25%, guys. 25% of the population, so your class, your grade, your religious community, your sports team, 25% is what is needed to kickstart a domino effect of change. And that to me is incredible.
That's every fourth person in every row. That's all we need.
Yep. I mean, that's what they refer to as the tipping point. But I do just want to emphasize something. We're not talking about 25% of every person living in Cape Town needs to take this action in action. It's 25% of the people in your class, not in the class, the next door class, or the class above, or the class below. So what we're saying is you speak to the people in your class. This is like very, very micro connection stuff. We're not talking about your whole school. You don't have to go and campaign in your whole school. We're just talking your class. If you can get 25% of the parents in your class to agree to hold out, that'll be enough.
Okay, but how do I do that? Courtney?
This is where SFC comes in.
Okay.
And we are doing that. We have been doing that. Let me explain some logistics of how it works. I think that would be helpful to everybody.
Yes.
We kicked off very reluctantly on WhatsApp because nobody wants another WhatsApp group, but there we did it, and they maxed out like this, 1,000 parents, maxed out like this, another 1,000 parents. And now we have a community of well over 3,000 parents in over 70 schools in South Africa who are talking to each other in their class groups. And just by virtue of this happening and parent surveys going out in our communities and this bubbling up and this shift that's taking place, people are talking about this topic where they weren't before, in the car park, on the sports field, on the stage. I would not have done this in April, but I have the confidence of conversations that I've now had with other parents to know that I am not alone in this really, really uncomfortable feeling. And as much as I love Jonathan, like everybody else, I didn't need the stats and the data. I could see it in my own children, and I could feel that they suffer and that they're just not ready for it. So collective action, we get into our WhatsApp groups. If you want to do it paper-based, please, by all means. Really, we're not prescriptive, but the idea is that you start to have conversations with people in your community, and I encourage you to be brave and to take that first step, because people feel the same way that you do. Now, there is a right way and there is a wrong way to do that. We have to recognize that every parent is doing the best that they can for their children with the information that they have at that time, and they may be doing things differently to you. We have to be supportive and understanding, and we have to also recognize that no one has all the answers. SFC doesn't have all the answers, and we are all figuring this out together, and it is evolving so rapidly, especially with the advent of AI. I mean, we cannot keep up with this stuff. So I think we've just got to go all very carefully and gently. Okay, then some other things that you might want to do. You want to, in the similar fashion, go and engage with your school leadership. I would suggest perhaps starting with an email. Recognize that these are very, very busy people with a very important job to do. They may also be completely unaware, or they may be very much aware. They may be in a difficult position where they're facing pressure from parents on either side of the spectrum to be pro-tech because we want to prepare our children for the future and they need to be on this technology, which is not true.
And parents should be able to contact their kids all day at school. That's a thing.
That is a thing.
That is a thing?
Yep, that's the thing.
So let's talk about contacting kids. You can buy them what we are calling a start phone. We're rebranding it, guys. It's not a dumb phone. It's not a feature phone. It's not a brick. It is a start phone, because there has to be some first step before you put a supercomputer in your children's pockets. You can phone them. You can text them. You can play Snake. The 3310 is back.
I must say, Snake is a bit addictive, though.
With boundaries.
I finished it twice. I do want to say, because you haven't got to it yet. I did. That was amazing. The website that these guys have created. Now, I cannot tell you because I've been a little bit on the outskirts. I've been kind of dipping in and out and helping as far as I can. But these guys behind this SFC movement have worked like you cannot believe. What they've accomplished in South Africa in such a short time is extraordinary, right? As I say, I've been shouting this from the rooftops for 10 years. I've done nothing. So I cannot tell you how hard these guys, especially people wearing pink hats, those are the phenomenal ones, and Courtney. But the website is the most brilliant place to start. So it's called SFC-SA. SFC, Smartphone Free Childhood-SA, that's us, South Africa. And it's got practice wording there for you. So if you want to send a WhatsApp to your class WhatsApp group, how do you start the conversation? There's literally a precedent there for you to use, copy, paste, make edits that make it your tone, right? And there are draft emails that you can send to your school they've done all of this work for you. And the best, I'm sure you're about to tell us about.
Yes. Okay.
Only when Angie tells me to.
I love the control.
Can I say something as well on that?
No.
Stop
Sorry.
asking, you're the boss.
This is not all our work alone. There are so many incredible resources available online. Sitting on the other side of Oprah was Dr. Becky, who some of you might know. She released an incredible resource last week on how to take these 4 norms, which are quite, they might be quite aspirational for some families, and how to actually have these conversations with your children. There is a script. There is a reminder of what your role is as a parent, a reminder of your children's role. It is your role to keep your children safe, and it is their role to sometimes not enjoy that, feel their feelings. She's all about the feelings.
That's okay.
And that is okay.
Yep.
SFC UK released a parent slide deck last week with everything you need to do to go to take it to your school. You obviously customize it according to your needs. There are talking points there, and we're gathering this stuff. And I want to give some practical examples because our little working crew has been kind of deliberating on what to do since I think April, May. And so we've got a few months under our belts, and some of the women in this group have done the most remarkable things. May I mention names?
Yeah.
Okay. Amy, who is a wonderful pediatric physiotherapist mum, she got the courage to email her head teacher. Her head teacher was intrigued by what she had to say. She called her in. They had a lovely conversation. Amy is very respectful, and she listens well, and she understands, and they connected on this. Okay, cool. Some time went by. There was another meeting. I want you to present to the teachers. Okay, this is where all these slide decks come in, because people want presentations. They want to see these hard-hitting stats. And Ames went and presented to the teachers. Then it was a presentation to the school governing body, and she has now been invited to speak to the girls' school and the boys' school teaching staff, which is amazing. Nika has done a similar thing. She arranged a talk much like this with Kate, talking about the smartphone tipping point. Oh gosh, there's so many examples. I think by virtue of these events, Sam at Rustenburg went and spoke to her headmistress. They were on board. They said, at this point, these lovely ladies had offered to do a talk. And she said, do you think we could host them? She said, yes, absolutely. I went to my school and I said, can we do it too? And they said, yes, absolutely. So you have to start there. And you've got to be brave, and we really have to be gentle with each other.
What is really encouraging is it seems like wherever this has gone, the response has been positive. Amy was actually telling me about after she presented to the teachers at the boys' school, the head of the tech, the IT teacher, he came out and he said, I want this so badly. So our teachers are on board too. And I want to ask you, Emma, just for your take on what the role of the educators, what our teachers play in this in our schools. And then we'll get to the big conversation of the night, and then we're going to get to some questions.
Yeah, I think the schools are, they're the third leg, right? The legs don't, of a tripod. Okay, because we can get parents together and we can have SFC, and this can be an unbelievable partnership. But if the schools are saying, well, you've got to be on the WhatsApp group so you know what the maths homework is, that's no good, right? Because then you're forcing the child to be on the platform. And, you know, Jonathan Haidt mentioned COVID. I think what COVID did was it forced a lot of kids who were far too young to be on these platforms to be in the online world. And then we started setting precedents of them being young. And now we've almost got to do a product recall. You know, we've almost got to be like, okay, it's faulty, bring it back, you know. So I think that schools are there. You know, schools often are saying to me, we don't want to have to deal with these issues because there's me writing them letters saying, what are you doing to protect this child? You're acting in loco parentis. The child feels unsafe coming to school. She's been bullied on WhatsApp all weekend. And the schools are saying, but we didn't buy them the phone. We don't want to get involved in this stuff. We would love to say, and this is many schools, we would love to say you can't be on these platforms. So it's got to be, and there's no good if the schools are insisting that they have a device, they could bring your own device, and there's no protections on the Wi-Fi at school, and then the kids are using their school tablets to be on these dodgy platforms, then it doesn't work, right? So we all need to work together. But I can tell you that my experience, and I work with schools literally every single day, is that they will be on board. And maybe the conversations have to happen gently. But I really do believe that the schools, the educators are such an important part. I think that sometimes what I'm seeing is, you know, teaching is often a very young profession. Sometimes the teachers themselves are what I call digital natives, people who don't know the life that's other than the life that's lived online. Everything's documented, where you go, who you see, what you do, what you wear, what you eat. It's like CCTV footage of your life. And I think that the schools have a duty to be educating their educators as well. So it is a collective effort. And I just think that with those three, with SFC, with parents, and with schools, this can be done.
It can be done. And it can be done practically by signing the Parent Pact. Has anybody heard of the Parent Pact? No? Great. Courtney is going to tell us about the Parent Pact. Go, Courts.
This is a big deal, guys. It is a very, very big deal. Pacts have been around for some time. How they work is that you would be standing around a braai and you would say, Sally, wink, wink. You'd be standing around a braai saying, okay, we're not going to do it. We're just going to hold out. And okay, and everyone's like, okay, cool. And time goes by and the pressures mount. What do they call it? Pesto pressure and peer pressure. And, you know, one person gives in and the next person gives in and then it's kind of over. A parent pact, the parent pact that we have developed together with our amazing friends at Bluegrass Digital, is a digital parent pact. You go on there, you select it's for primary schools. You select your primary.
It's on the website.
On the website.
Okay. ffc-sa.co.za.
That's right. So,
or scan the QR code.
So you go onto the website, you select your province, you select your school from over 18,000 primary schools in South Africa. If it's not there, email us and we will make it happen. But you can select your school, you select your child's grade, and you go into your parent pact. Now, this pact is very clever because it has a tipping point built in of 10 parents. So you do not, what that means is the pact stays dormant and inactive until 10 parents in your child's school and grade commit together. Okay, so dormant, no one knows.
Commit together to delay giving their children smartphones.
Until high school.
Until high school.
And then when you get to high school, you can chat about it some more. And Jonathan will have another book out by then. Right, so the 10th person signs up. Oh, the beauty of this, first of all, is that you're not the oddball parent. You're not that weirdo that's refusing to give their kids tech. You have the safety of being anonymous until there are 10 parents with you in your child's community. So your child cannot come and say, I'm the only one. That you can say, no, it is this child, and you can name 9 other children in his or her grade that they would know. Then our parent pact sends those 10 families an email so you know who the other committed families are. And what this does is it gives us visibility, because before, all these feelings and intentions were deep inside us and we were not talking about them. We didn't know. Now we can stand together, we can support one another, and we can have some solidarity in this. And we have given you some tools on how to roll this out in your schools. We encourage the schools themselves to roll this out to their grades and to endorse it for the benefit of our children. And the most amazing thing is that we unlocked a pact today. Our very first one, Rustenburg girls, grade 4. Congratulations.
That gave me goosebumps on my head. That is amazing. Okay, Weinberg parents, where are you? I want to unlock a pact. Let's do it.
We're the Sachs parents.
Tonight's the night.
I love that. I love our kids always like, I'm the only one. But are they? No.
No, well, I'd like to come in here because so often parents phone me and they'll be like, but my child's the only one in their grade 5 class who's not on the WhatsApp group. And I say to them, I mean, I know it's hard, but I promise you they're not the only one. This is a line that gets used, right? I am the only one. And even if it's a handful, I know it's hard, but we're really with this campaign hoping to make it easier. But don't give in to the I'm the only one line.
So the pact was where is where we're landing, because really that's what we want you to go and look at, you know, and don't feel peer pressured by us, you know, go and do the research for yourself, read the book.
Peer pressure.
I feel like I just have to say that, but I feel like we've been pretty convincing.
Gee.
I can get
I
some
know.
Do we need to go back to the gruesome stuff?
I just my husband won't do anything until he's done the research for himself. So if you are a conner, then go and watch all these YouTube clips and go through that website. It's incredible. And start talking to the parents in your classes and sign the pact.
Yeah, I do want to just quickly say in terms of the resources, because we talked about the Anxious Generation book, which is unbelievable, but it is jolly expensive. The website that they've made open source is also an unbelievable place to start. It's called The Anxious Generation. If you just Google it, it'll take you there. And all of the stats and fabulous articles and little précis versions of what is contained in that book are all there. So don't feel like if you can't manage to buy the book, then you don't have access to that.
And you can sign up to his newsletter, which is on Substack.
That's good.
Some wonderful gems that are coming through from him building on his work.
Babel.
Can I add something to that?
While you do, I just want to say, Joss, do you have questions for us? Okay, go Courts.
So Jonathan is a really incredible man. I mean, we knew that already. He's got his 4 norms, guys. Jono, are we going with Jono? Okay. He's got his 4 norms, right? Delay smartphones, delay social media, phone-free schools, and more independence, free play, and responsibility in the real world. He has got organizations for all of those things. There is the phone-free schools movement. They, a few months ago, released a pack for school administrators, letter templates to parents, how to talk to this with your staff, things that you might want to question in the teaching practices. He's done that. On Norm 4, he's got an organization, I mean, they're probably all volunteers or NPOs or whatever, but called Let Grow. And this is for us parents because we have to let go and let them grow. And it's about facilitating this independence in real world play, multi-age, unsupervised, unstructured, let them be kids. And
We want bruises.
we want bruises. So much to say about this. There is an amazing doctor in NHS who said, and I paraphrase, she has seen obviously the mental health rates skyrocket and the admissions for broken bones decline. And she said that it is far easier to fix a broken bone than it is to fix a broken mind. So that's food for thought.
While Joss comes up, I just want to add that Roblox, the Hindenburg Research Institute just released a really, really damning report on Roblox and the dangers of Roblox. And it's actually speaking to the financial side of Roblox, but you read it and you're like, I'm not going to let my child near this. But when I tried to say to Caleb, yeah, it's done, your Thursday afternoons are over. Didn't go so well.
Even more interesting was the lawsuit filed yesterday by 14 states in America against TikTok. And the extent to which they know they're using addictive technologies on these little children. And it takes 260 very, very short form TikTok videos, which is 35 minutes of their lives to get properly addicted.
Oh my word.
It's
So
fascinating. If anyone is a nerd and interested in this,
31 minutes.
35 minutes.
35
260
minutes.
videos. Yep. Oops.
So what I did was my son, he's old enough to understand what is a sexual predator, what is grooming. I mean, in the very basic sense, but he is. So I sat with him and I said, my boy, we're going to make this decision together. Do you want this? Do you want this? So we've spoken a lot about parents and how with the parents and the educators, we're having these conversations, but I think we can also have these conversations with our kids. They need to buy into that this is good for them. This is good for them. Mommy knows best. Okay, Jocelyn. Oh, shame. Those stairs are, no one must ever go up them.
Hi there. So we do have a couple of questions coming through. We've got, and I'll give you 3 questions so we can answer together, and then we can do another round after that. A lot of questions about high school. So for parents who are watching who already have kids in high school, how do we start to change the norms there? Like in high school, they're expected to have a phone or a tablet. How do we keep kids safe? And how do we engage with schools around that? So that's the first question. The second question, for people who have already given their kids access to phones and gaming, how do we walk back that decision? How do we do the product recall? And then just the third question we'll take in this round. I'm worried about being that mom where my kids' friends don't want to come over because of the limitations I place on screen time, and I want them to be at my home.
Bribe them with good food. No, I'm joking. Okay. Can I jump in with the teenage question? Because this is my passion project, high school kids. So I think absolutely crucial, and Kate mentioned it earlier, no phones in the bedroom. Absolutely not negotiable. They'll tell you they need an alarm clock. You go to Clicks, you buy them an alarm clock. They cost about 160 ZAR, and you take away their phone, right? They do not need their phones. If they've got them, they're on them. They're listening to music, they're playing games, they're talking to their mates. I've got a very strong view that parents should have full access to children's phones. Legally, until they're 18, you're allowed to, because in South Africa, we talked about civil capacity 7, criminal capacity 12, contractual capacity, the legal ability to enter into a contract is 18. Now, when your child downloads any app, any game, any site, they press a button saying, I agree to your terms and conditions. Now, one of those, well, firstly, that's that child entering into a contract, a legally binding contract with big tech. They can only do that if the parents are party to the contract, right? So the parent legally has full access to that device. You know, some parents want to style it as it's my device, you get to use it. I'm a big fan of a smartphone contract. When you give your child a device at the beginning, there's a free one to download on my website, but the internet is awash with examples. You find one which resonates with you. For parents who are watching who may have given their children phones already, a good time to do it is maybe if they've messed up a little bit and you've confiscated the phone, you decide that the premise for giving it back is a smartphone contract. Having a time budget with children, absolutely crucial. And then I cannot emphasize this enough, modeling from your own behavior. Right, you know, and Kate mentioned it earlier. I don't know if we've got that cartoon, but it is a pretty haunting one where a woman's sitting on a bench looking at her phone with a kid sitting next to her who's on his phone, and then a woman here reading her book with a kid reading the book, and the woman looking at the phone says, "But how do you get your kid to read books?" You know, like, and it's so true because we're all hysterical about our children being addicted, but we're addicted. So really starting to be conscious of your own phone use. No, you don't sleep with your phone next to your bed. And I appreciate, and some of the things that our mate Jono says, and he is unbelievably brilliant, but there are some parts which are not that appropriate in the South African context. You know, we do live in a much more dangerous place than they live in the States, where it's safer to be on the streets than it is in South Africa. So, and a lot of kids say to me, you know, they're the only person in their house when they sleep at night. They need the phone in their room. They need to be able to phone. So obviously there are circumstances which can change that. But as a rule, trying not to sleep at least with your phone on the bedside table, having device-free meals, media-free locations in the house, those kinds of best practice, you having time budgets on your social media apps and trying to stick to them as far as possible. And then the best line of defense against all of the online harms, active, involved, engaged, aware parents. The fact that you guys are even here, your children have won the lottery. Really, it is
Active, involved,
engaged,
engaged, aware.
parents. So you're doing the research, you're investigating whether you think that a platform like, I don't know, Be Real is appropriate for your child. You check it out before you know what they're up to. And the final thing I'm going to say, and the most important thing, is being the kind of parent that your child can come to, not if, but when they see things that are causing them harm. Like they saw the bodies on Twitter today, or somebody's been asking them for pictures of their feet on their Insta DMs, right? They need to be able to come to you, because I said to you earlier, we can often use the law to protect victims, but they're not even going to get to me unless they're prepared to go home and tell their parents what's happened. So pre-programming yourself not to freak out, not to just confiscate the phone when they tell you that something's happened, because it just means that the next time it happens, they won't tell you. So really having conversations, showing interest. Oh yeah, what did you learn on TikTok today? And what is this? And who's this person you're following? And oh, I noticed that this person's commenting on your Insta all the time. Who is that person? Speak to your children. That's really speak to your children and be on their team, even if they've messed up, because they can't get out of that mess without your help.
So, Ange, just to add to that, that first question was also about phones and tablets in high school. And I think just to reflect that our educational system is so founded now on technology, a lot of our primary schools have bought into technology being the way that we now educate, right? And so a lot of us are being required to buy iPads from as young as grade 4. And then those bloody things come home. And I think this is where we are shifting now, is a lot more about the discussion about how iPads are used. Are they going to be used as educational devices or as an educational textbook only? And then whether the schools are going to put their mobile device management systems onto those devices 24/7, so that they don't come home and then our problem. We're managing all those iMessage groups that never stop. Some of those kids, awake until 2 a.m. And of course, trying to manage what gets downloaded onto those iPads. And let me tell you that the average grade 4, 5, 6, 7 is far savvier than we are. Those kids will download a VPN to be able to take that iPad to school and be able to access social media during the maths lesson. That is the reality that we are dealing with and that our teachers are dealing with. So it's not just high school. I think we're starting in primary school. High schools, of course, we desperately want, as part of our movement, we've decided not to create a separate movement for phone-free schools. We want it to be squarely under the SFC banner, and definitely to try and get more of our schools to take on this movement, this rolling snowball, to get our smartphones out of high schools, because that's mainly where they are, at least for the academic day. And there's a petition, I just want to say, can I boost the petition on our website? Please, guys, help us with this new Minister of Basic Education. Let us get this petition going
That's the Be in
viral.
Touch website, right?
On our
Oh, it's the
SFC.
SFC website.
On the SFC website, yeah. It's on the Be in Touch website.
And
But
this
let's
is,
do
to be
this.
clear,
Let's
this
get
is for phone-free schools. We want you to
phone-free
sign
schools, yeah.
the petition for phone-free
So when your
schools.
kids are getting up to high school, this is going to be the problem that I'm sitting with right now. And it's a huge distraction. UNESCO called last year for a global ban on getting phones out of classrooms, because they are a huge distraction and because of the cyberbullying that comes to school on those phones. So they've got no place in our classrooms. And we would love to see this.
I know you've got so much to say.
legislation.
There's just there are two little two little factoids I'd like to share with you. I spoke earlier this year at the Boys Principals Conference, and a first-hand account from one of the principals at one of the high schools very near here, an all-boys high school. He said that they've gone to the locker system where they arrive at school and they have to lock the phone away until the end of the academic day. And he said that one of the things he wasn't anticipating and he didn't think about before until it happened, he's got no idea how noisy the school has become again. He said the bell rings, the class is finished. In the old days, they would pull out their phones and stare at their screens while they walked from class A to class B. Now they're talking to each other. In the break times, they're playing soccer, they're laughing, they're interacting, there's chaos. And he's just said it is so divine. So that's the one. The second is in the context of how I was saying the American way can't just be absorbed immediately here. The principal of CARES told me that they've just done this study at CARES which is one of the biggest boys' schools in Joburg, and just over 30% of every boy in the school Ubers home each day. It's quite interesting. So to say no phones at all, not possible, right? So just to give you an idea of how we're relying on the tech, but that doesn't mean they need it during the maths class.
What I want to say is if you are one of the parents that asked that question, what do we do about high school? Then please come get in touch with the people in the pink hats, with Kate, with Courtney. We need high school parents to take up the charge. Okay, so that is what you can do. You can be the one, do it. Then I want to ask Kate, what about the parents who now feel they need to do a product recall? Like how, okay, so we let it in the door. What do we do? How do we get it out again?
Yes, it's hard because if I had to think about doing that on my own 16-year-old, I think there would be
Mutiny.
nuclear war in the house. But it is hard. And Dr. Becky Kennedy is a wonderful guru for this. She's all about conscious parenting, super tools that she provides for having these conversations. And our children are savvy individuals. We've got to sit down with them. We've got to explain to them, what is this information that we are now realizing to be true? Why are we so concerned about their safety? Thinking ahead, not just that we don't want to pay a lot of money on therapy bills to come, but we really want them to be happy, healthy teenagers. I mean, that's the dream that we all have for our kids. We don't want them to be reclusive, depressed, anxious beings, that are self-harming. So I think, depending on their age, of course, and there's some lovely documentaries you can sit and watch together. For example, Childhood 2.0 is definitely one. If you've got a tween, early teen, something you can sit and look together and chat about. But to get them to understand why you are making the decisions that you are as a parent, because we do have a license to parent. And I think we need to be the best parent, not the best friend. Those two are not always compatible. And to sit and to chat to them. And it's not no forever, but it's just no for now.
No for now. I really like that. To the parent that asked the question about, the 12-year-old who the kids don't want to come and play at your house, I will say that I have a 12-year-old almost, and you can come and play at my house. The kids don't want to come and play at my house either. And my son's friend literally said, I don't want to come back to your house. It's not fun yet, because I won't let them go on any kind of device. But I actually got incredible advice on this, and I would normally have gone to Courtney, but I'm going to share with you. I spoke to a mom of high school kids, single mom, struggling financially, and she was telling me that she just couldn't compete. She couldn't compete with what the other kids had access to. And so her son, when he went to the other houses, it was just all the things were there, and it was amazing. Not necessarily tech related, just like cool houses to be at. But she wanted her son at home, and she wanted his friends to come over to their place. So what she did was she found out and obviously these are boys we're talking, so she found out what all of his mates' favorite snacks were. And she filled her cupboards with those specific snacks. So if Fred came over, there were always Ghost Pops for Fred. And it worked. It worked. So now I know what Alex's favorite snacks are. And I'm hoping next time he comes to my house, he's really, really going to enjoy being there.
Hopefully it's not beer.
No. Jocelyn, do you have more questions for us? Oh, Joss got an own mic.
Can I say something about that? Because it's actually really tricky to know what to do. We haven't been in this position before. We don't have the answer for everyone's situations, right? And we can share strategies, and this is where community is important. We've all heard your friend's story and what's worked for her. What my strategy is I've bought road cones, and I'm very privileged to live in a quiet suburb, but I've brought road cones, and I'm going to let my children play in the street while the road cones are out. I'm going to do it. My neighbor's here. Peer pressure. My thinking for my family, and again, just sharing, and I want everyone to share what you've tried and what works. That's what these groups are for. My strategy is if my children can't do those things at our house, what are they allowed to do at our house that they're not allowed to do at someone else's house? Please don't
Break bones.
Please don't report me, guys. Playing in the streets. I let my children make fires now. They have a spot in the garden where they are allowed to go and make a fire, and they love it. And maybe Alex is not allowed to make fires at his house. I've done the risk assessment.
If anyone else was telling me this, I'd be really worried. But guys, it's okay. It's Courtney.
Funny. Okay, we must wrap.
Okay, Joss, hit us, and then
We must wrap.
we're going to wrap up.
Thanks. So we've got a final round of questions. I know we talked about neurodiverse kids earlier. There's some questions around how do we support neurodiverse kids who need some structure and who often benefit from screens, but at the same time, they're often also at risk from screens. So there's a question there. Then there's also a question around how do we progress the pact? Can we have a pact for gaming, for instance, or to decide on which games do we allow in our community? So yeah, there are lots of questions about gaming.
Please take down the name of the person who asked that question. You're in charge.
If anyone has an idea, you are automatically roped in to be an NCC volunteer.
And then third question was, where are the dads? We also need dads to get on board with this.
I can see them.
I can see them.
Lots of dads.
But there's no one on stage.
It's true.
So I'd like to chip in quickly on the neurodivergent, and really we are nearly finished, so don't lose hope. There's wine in your future. So what I've worked at a lot of schools that especially cater for neurodivergent kids, and a lot of the issues that come into my inbox are from kids who are neurodivergent, and what we see is that the online world can be such a fabulous place for some of these kids, like platforms like Minecraft. I don't know if The Boy Made of Blocks, if anyone read that. It was the most wonderful book about a neurodivergent kid and how he found his safe space in this Minecraft game. But we find that sometimes they are much more vulnerable to sexual predation, much more vulnerable to any kind of stranger danger stuff, much more gullible in sending content. So my sort of go-to advice is, when it's just your role is a little bit more of a watching brief than the average parent. I'm a huge fan of a social media of an app called Bark, which is a little bit stronger than the apps that come free on the devices. So there's Screen Time on the Apple devices, Google Family Link on the Android devices, which are absolutely sufficient. But if you've got a particularly vulnerable child, or you've noticed a change in your child, say you've got a teenage daughter who's suddenly hiding her phone every time you walk in the room, or you've noticed a change in mood, behavior, school marks, sleep patterns, appetite, you're worried they're self-harming or something, Bark is just that extra level of monitoring, because it goes that step further. If it picks up that your child is being groomed, or there's any kind of bullying or racism or anything, you get an alert on your phone. So it's just that extra level. So I'm a big fan when you've got little children starting social media for the first time. You do have to pay for it, which sucks, but it's worth it. And it's not forever. So for me, it's when your kids start on social media for the first time. If you've got a neurodivergent child, or if you've got a child who you're worried about, you think there may be an issue going on, someone a bit more vulnerable, then I think a platform like an app like Bark is absolutely worth its weight in gold.
I just want to say, because we helped launch Bark into South Africa, is that these are also grudge purchases, right? Because none of us should be in the position where we have to pay for sophisticated parental controls. So I think it's going back to our discussion about the more we can delay smartphones and the more we can delay social media, the easier our lives will be, a lot cheaper as well. And obviously, the better the lives of our children will be too.
So we're going to wrap up now. The other two questions that we got on a more progressed pact, yes, come and speak to the ladies in the pink hats.
I want to say we have a parent group for neurodiverse children. Please join it. There are parents going through similar stuff. and you can troubleshoot together, find out what's working. There is your community. Please join that group. If you want to create a group on gaming, please feel free to join the group. I need to emphasize.
Start a group, or is there one
So,
already?
not yet.
Okay.
That parent's going to start one.
Yes.
Okay.
Little Miss X or Little Mr. X.
I have to emphasize that this is a parent-led initiative.
Volunteer parent.
Volunteer parents. I have a job. This is not it. I've been asked,
Yes.
I'm not coming to do a talk at your school. SFC is not coming to do a talk at your school. We're going to connect you with parents in your community, and we're going to empower you with these tools, our experience, our support, all of those good things, because you're going to have to do it yourselves.
We're passing the monkey to you.
And the dads are here.
They're here.
The dads are here. And this wouldn't be happening without that support. But if you're a dad, and if you're a single dad, please come, get involved. Everyone can get involved. I want to say a big thank you to, first of all, to our amazing panelists. Thank you so much. These expert women have given their time.
Well done, Kate.
Kate and Emma, really, you flew here. They're from Joburg. They're not from Cape Town. They've given us their time. They've lent us their expertise, and they've really
There are
helping
still
us
Joburgers left in Joburg. You
kickstart.
might-
Yeah. So thank you, really and
Thank you.
truly. Thank you so much, Courtney, and your team. Well, it's not her team, it's a team, and she is the one on the stage. But thank you for what you are doing and helping us get this started. Really want to say thank you to Bluegrass Digital. Courtney mentioned them. They built the most incredible website.
18,000 sleeves. Wow.
And their dads. I think if you click, we've got a slide, Kate, of all of our sponsors that we want to thank. Instax, Common Trade Shoes, Kiddie Winks, Rush, PlayStation, Bike Park, cool places to take your kids where they don't need phones, Mandy, Herald, Oris, Lighthouse, Dairy Den, and then a huge thank you to Saks for lending us the hall and just being a support. If I have left anyone out, HMD, I'm just checking myself.
Dairy Den.
Dairy Den, got them. Dairy Den's donuts are incredible. And comment, I said all of those. You were looking at the slide.
I wanted to see who the winners were.
Yes, thank you so much to the husbands who have been carrying this, burning the home fires so that the moms can be making this happen. And then, yeah, finally, I want to say, please stay. Oh, there are prize winners. Let's
like
check
to
out our
say it?
prize winners.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay. Please find your people. Find your class members.
It's a hell of an event.
Have a cup of coffee. Have a drink. Eat a donut.
Practice run last night.
Thank you, everyone, and good night.